Trying to catch me howling at the moon.
For the first stop this season, we're going to Union, South Carolina to Deer Haven. This has been the first event for a few years now. However, the last two were insane mudders, with such rainfall, terrible conditions, that there had to be entire sections of the track removed. However, this year the conditions look awesome. Over 7.5 miles of hill climbs, creek crossings, high-speed straights, and much more come together in a unique and diverse track. Going into the season, there's a lot of different storylines. First and foremost, who's going to be competing for the overall championship? Last year's defending champion Dylan Wallraven is coming back, along with some of the big title contenders Carson Collins and Westin Scott. You have some exciting new faces at the front row with Nathan Honderellis, who won AA Expert last year, moving up to Pro Row. Caleb Avey showed up last year to some races, but wasn't able to compete for the overall championship. This year, however, he said he's coming for that number one plate. Speaking of number one plates, last year's youth championship winner Harrison Lindsey has moved up to the late race. He'll be competing in Elite Youth, following in the steps of Carson Collins, looking to get back on that podium as soon as he possibly can. Another top competitor in the youth race was Makenzie Luckadoo. She's going to be moving up to the women's division, trying to compete for a championship there now as well. And then in one of the fan favorite divisions, the 4x4 utility quads, David Elliot is going to start another championship campaign, hoping to repeat last year's dominance. And lastly, with next week's national event, there are a ton of participants that do not normally compete in MidEast coming to show out. These are names like John Glada Jr., Cole Richardson, James Glada, and many, many more coming in from different states and even different countries to compete in this weekend's event. None of the riders we spotlighted for the championship contenders got a particularly good start. They would all be battling from the middle of the pack. John Glada Jr., however, would get a very early start and begin chasing down Cole Richardson, who got out to an early lead. About halfway through the first lap, John Glada Jr. would get the pass on Cole Richardson to give him the lead. Very early on, Carson Collins would wreck on a small little hill climb by the lakeside. This would bring his race to an end as he broke his tie rod. On the note of unfortunate issues, Westin Scott would have another set of mechanical issues that would slow him down throughout the day, removing his ability to compete for a podium. It was a slow start for Nathan Honderellis in his maiden voyage on the front row. He would have to battle back if he wanted to salvage some championship points. David Elliot got an awful start as well. He was last into the woods. He would make some moves, however, and by the end of the first lap would be all the way up into second place. Your youth stars looked very good early. Harrison had a strong start, being the top 25 in the first lap, and Makenzie Luckadoo was third in her division after the first lap as well. John Glada Jr. put it in cruise control, pushing his early lead to 20 to 90 seconds for the next 5 laps, with nobody particularly getting close to him. The story would, however, be Josh Merritt. He would pull off the fastest lap of the day, pushing him into second place on the second lap. However, he would end up running into trouble, falling all the way back into third, being 90 seconds down on second place, which was Brenton Owens, and over 2.5 minutes down on John Glada Jr. Makenzie Luckadoo would push all the way up into second place in the women's division before unfortunately running into some quad issues that would force her to drop out of the race. Nathan Honderellis would put on a massive charge in the middle of the race, coming from as low as 14th early on all the way up into 6th place in the pro division. David Elliot would take the lead early into the second lap, however the battle would be far from over. The next 4 laps he would never have a lead over 10 seconds, crossing the finish line with a sub 2 second lead twice. While John Glada Jr. had a very large lead early, Josh Merritt's comeback was insane. In the last 3 laps, he took 90 seconds off of Glada Jr.'s lead. First, he ran down Brandon Owens for second place. However, he did not quite have enough time to run down John Glada Jr., who would get the victory.
Pretty good. Got to a pretty good start behind Ronnie and Cole, and shortly after made my way around them, and so Cole had some issues and fell back, and just kind of ran my own race all day out front.
When it comes to the young guns, Harrison Lindsey would end up in 20th place overall, winning his class as well.
How was the first race in the late race?
It was very good, but difficult. It was my first road race of the season, and I need to put in a lot more work.
Makenzie Luckadoo, even after retiring early in the race, would go on to get 6th, but she should take a ton of confidence away moving on to the rest of the season. Your title favorites do have to feel somewhat good about this race, as the highest finisher of them would be 5th. This could be an early drop for nearly everyone, which I'm certain Caleb Abey is smiling about at home. David Elliot would run out of steam late, falling off in the last 2 laps after having a very hard crash. He would still go on to finish in second place, keeping his campaign for another championship in full force. Next race, we return to the fan favorite Harris Bridge. The championship battle is just getting kicked off. Caleb Abey should be returning, and our championship frontrunners should be just starting the battle. Hopefully Makenzie Luckadoo will have less quad troubles in the next race, and Harrison Lindsey will begin to push towards those podiums again. David Elliott will be looking for revenge, trying to get back on top of the 4x4 utility class. What story do you think we should cover in the next quad race? Feel free to let us know down in the comments section below.